Today, you'll learn 5 key steps for managing a difficult relationship with a parent. These steps are designed to improve communication and protect your peace. Do you dread visiting your parents because every word feels like a battle? Do you leave their house drained, frustrated, or questioning yourself? Whether you're just trying to survive the next holiday or considering going no contact, you're not alone. These 5 steps to manage a difficult relationship with your parent are incredibly powerful, but they won't work if we don't get this first one right. Let's dive right into step 1, taking stock. When we try to manage a difficult relationship, the first thing we want to do is take stock. That means being honest with yourself about how much you're willing to invest in your relationship. Ask yourself, how much time and emotional energy can I realistically give of myself? An hour a week? Maybe more, or maybe right now it's very little. Whatever the number is, be clear about it. If we don't set limits, we risk giving more of ourselves than we can handle. And that's when we start to lose ourselves. No relationship should ever cost you your sense of self. The second thing we do when taking stock is to consider what your parent is realistically able to offer. Did you notice? I didn't say, what do you want from them? Because what we want and what they can actually give are often two very different things. If you don't acknowledge that gap, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. I know this can be difficult to figure out, so let me give you an example. Let's say I'm trying to work on my relationship with my dad. My schedule is busy. I don't have time or the emotional energy to talk to him every day. But I could commit to an hour on the weekend, either by phone or maybe in person. Now, let's look at what he's able to give me. Maybe he's combative and drinks too much at dinner, which usually leads to fights. We've left restaurants in chaos more times than I can count, and on top of that, he's retired with plenty of free time, which means he texts me constantly. But often these messages feel manipulative. If I don't respond right away, he escalates, and in the past, it's even pushed me to go no contact. Okay, taking all that into account, the smartest choice may be to keep our contact to phone only. No more public blowups. Limit conversations to about an hour at most, and only when it fits into my schedule. That way, I can stay present without sacrificing my peace. Do you see how this already gives me a clearer path forward? But here's the catch. If we stop here, it's not enough. Because if we follow step 1, taking stock, we could still find ourselves in unhealthy patterns. That's why getting this next step right is so crucial. Step number 2, set boundaries. A healthy relationship is defined by clear boundaries. And boundaries are the space we create so that love and respect can exist in a healthy way. Think of them as limits we set, not to control someone else's behavior, but to protect our own well-being. To be clear, boundaries are not walls to shut people out. They're not punishments, and they're not demands we place on others. If you say to a parent, "You need to stop talking to me like that," that is a request. And if they ignore it, which they have every right to, you're left frustrated and powerless. Instead, a boundary sounds like this. If you continue speaking to me that way, I'm going to leave the conversation. Do you see the difference? One of them is about controlling someone else. The other is about taking responsibility for yourself. This distinction matters so much with difficult parents because boundaries force us to ask, what can I tolerate? And what is not acceptable? That's not always easy to answer, so take your time with this step. If you've never had strong boundaries with your difficult parent, this process could feel really uncomfortable. You might have feelings of guilt or think you're being selfish, or you may even be tempted to give in just to keep the peace. This isn't proof that you're doing anything wrong. They're signs you're breaking old, unhealthy patterns. I'm going to say that again. If, when setting boundaries, you feel uncomfortable, guilty, or selfish, this is a sign you are breaking free of old and unhealthy patterns. The truth is, we can't control other people, and we most certainly can't make them change. If we could, we wouldn't be here having this conversation in the first place. Stick with me because we are going to talk about healthy forms of communication in a second. But if we don't do this next step first, we will get pulled right back into the unhealthy dynamic. Step 3 in dealing with your difficult parent sounds intense, but trust me, its simplicity is why it's so genius. And I find it to be the aha moment we're all looking for. Step 3, detach. Detaching from someone can sound cold or even cruel, like it's something we do because we've stopped caring. But the truth is the opposite. Detachment is what allows us to stay connected without being consumed. When you detach emotionally, you're choosing not to ride the roller coaster of your parents' moods, words, or reactions. You're saying their behavior belongs to them. My peace belongs to me. This won't mean cutting them off completely. It is you learning to step back so you don't get hooked into the same toxic cycle over and over. For example, if your parent constantly criticizes you, detachment might look like this. Instead of defending yourself, arguing, or trying to win their approval, you calmly recognize this is about them, not me. You don't have to absorb their words as truth. Another example, if a phone call turns into an interrogation, detachment might mean keeping the conversation short, answering only what you're comfortable with, and refusing to get pulled into over-explaining yourself. Or during a family gathering, if your parent makes a passive-aggressive remark, detachment might be as simple as not taking the bait. You acknowledge it for what it is and choose not to give it power by reacting. The power of detachment is that it breaks the pattern. When you stop reacting the way you always have, the dynamic will shift. And most importantly, it gives you control over your own emotional state. Detaching isn't easy. At first, you may feel guilty or even heartless. But remember, detachment is not abandoning them. It's protecting yourself and building toward the future relationship you want. It's how you create enough emotional space to show up without being pulled under. Once you've created this new space, the next challenge becomes clear. How do you actually talk to your parent without falling back into old habits? This is where strong communication skills come in, and that's exactly where we're going in the next step. Step 4, improve communication. Once you've set boundaries and learned how to detach emotionally, the next step is figuring out how to communicate with your parents in ways that don't drag you back into old patterns. This is where good communication skills become essential. This isn't the typical, say whatever's on your mind approach, but intentional, thoughtful skills that protect your well-being while keeping the door open for connection. An incredibly powerful tool, and one that you can start with immediately, is using I statements. Instead of saying, "You're always criticizing me," you might say, "I feel hurt when I hear those comments, and I need to step back if they continue." Feel the difference? Now, why does this work? Because I statements take the blame and accusation out of the conversation. This lowers their defensiveness and keeps the focus on your feelings and actions. Next up, consider that communication is a two-way street. It isn't just about what you say. It's also about how you listen. Difficult parents often want to feel heard, even if you don't agree with them. So practice active listening. Reflect back what you hear, acknowledge their feelings, and then calmly share your perspective. It's not about giving in. It's about showing that you understand, which often lowers tension. Another underrated skill, keep things light. Not every conversation with your parents has to be about the big, heavy issues. In fact, sometimes it's healthier to steer the conversation towards safe topics like a funny memory, a new show you're watching, or something positive happening in your life. This doesn't mean you're avoiding problems. It means you're choosing where your energy goes instead of letting conflict take over every interaction. And here's something that feels a little bit out of the box, but it's incredibly powerful. Silence can be a communication tool too. I know, you don't have to respond to every jab, defend every choice, or explain yourself endlessly. Sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is to pause, breathe, and let the silence speak for itself. When you start using these tools, communication shifts. Conversations become less about winning or losing and more about staying steady in yourself while still engaging with them. Now is a good time to bookmark this video so you can re-watch later should you need it. I truly believe that most relationships with a difficult parent will improve if you follow the 4 steps I've just shared with you. To recap, they are taking stock, setting boundaries, detaching, and improving communication. Okay, so you followed along, you've watched and rewatched my 4 steps to managing relationships with a difficult parent. You have really tried, but it's just not working. You might be thinking, what now, Katie? I want you to be prepared to go 1 step further. This last step is possibly the most important in keeping you healthy and happy in your life. Let's dig in. Step 5, grieving. This step is often the hardest and the one that most of us try to avoid. When we do this kind of interpersonal work, we may come face to face with a painful truth. Our relationship with our parents may never be what we hoped it would be. That can be heartbreaking. It's natural to want parents who listen, nurture, and who celebrate us for who we are. But when our reality doesn't match up with that, grief is the only honest response. Grieving doesn't mean you give up on the relationship. It means you're allowing yourself to feel the sadness of what's missing instead of pretending it doesn't hurt. This is so very important. You have to feel it in order to heal it. I'm going to say it again. You have to feel it in order to heal it. If you skip this step, you'll carry the wounds quietly, and it'll keep pulling you back into old patterns of seeking something they may never be able to give. Part of this grief work is letting yourself mourn the version of the parent you never had. That might sound heavy, but it's actually freeing, because once you acknowledge what you didn't get, you can start looking for healthier ways to fill those needs. Sometimes that's through supportive friendships, mentors, a partner, or working with a mental health professional. Grief is not a one-time event. I wish it were, but it's a process. Some days, the sadness will hit you harder than others. When you allow yourself to move through the grief instead of resisting it, you'll come out the other side lighter, stronger, and far less tied to the hope that your parent will one day become someone they're not. This video isn't about fixing your parents. It's about freeing yourself. You can't control who they choose to be, but you can choose how you show up, what you allow, and how gently you care for you. Expect progress, not perfection. Some weeks will feel strong, others will sting, and both mean you're healing. Build the support you deserve, friends, therapy, your own voice, and let it be enough. You're allowed to take up space, ask for what you need, and choose peace over old patterns. If this resonated, please click the subscribe button, give this video a like, and share one takeaway in the comments. I'm rooting for you. You've got this.